So we're going to reply to some comments on gold, or at least we're going to reply to one comment on gold. Welcome to 2022. Happy New Year. I'm getting a little bit of a deja vu ping on that. Maybe I said that in the last video. Regardless though, it still feels pretty new, and I think a lot has changed since I first started making these videos. When I kicked it off, I was mostly giving advice on what to buy, how to buy, maybe how to sell if you had to. But now, and definitely going forward, they're more about why to buy. At least most of them. Most of them are going to be about the reasons that it makes sense to buy gold, and then practical ways to get started, practical ways to keep going. The upside of physical gold is pretty straightforward, but there are a few specific arguments against it that just get repeated over and over. The first is a lazy comparison of the current price of gold to its price in 2011. Last year in 2021, we had that convenient time frame where 10 years prior just happened to line up with that spike in gold price in 2011 where it went to $1,900. So you'll have some people repeating this idea that gold has been flat for a decade. All you have to do though is pull up a chart to show that that isn't true, so I'm just not going to spend much time on that one. The next is a comparison to Bitcoin in terms of price gains. That's going to have to be its own video. The third though is a question of gold's usefulness in an SHTF situation. The specific comment that gets me is, how are you going to buy a loaf of bread with an ounce of gold? And the answer of course is that I'm not. It just doesn't make any sense. The SHTF acronym has been used by so many people so many times that it has really lost all meaning. Are we talking about a dollar collapse? Are we talking about an economic collapse? Zombies? I don't even know. All right, let's take that first one. If the dollar crashes, it's a sure bet that we're going to see wide-scale chaos. The world reserve currency doesn't just go away or aggressively depreciate without causing significant issues. That would definitely be a problem. And in a case like that where people don't trust the dollar, yeah, gold and silver probably would be pretty important. A wide-scale economic collapse, maybe even a wide-scale catastrophic event though, that does not mean that the dollar is suddenly worthless. It depends. The point here is just that the most likely SHTF situations don't result in people having to buy bread with gold or silver. And I don't mean one-off situations. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm talking about wide-scale currency. You're not automatically going to flip that switch. And we have an example here. Prior to 2020, I think we'd all have agreed that a global pandemic would qualify as a wide-scale catastrophic event. And you can argue about the severity of the 2020 pandemic, but the dollar didn't go anywhere. People didn't automatically lose trust in it and switch to silver and gold. So to me, having gold has never been about buying bread. It's about maintaining livelihood. It's a lot bigger than buying a loaf of bread. Silver comes up a lot too. So again, you have to zero in on the particular case where the dollar or your local currency is destroyed. Otherwise, none of this even makes sense. So if you ignore the likelihood of that, or ignore the unlikelihood of that, then we get to the question of how to buy that loaf of bread again. And I'm not trying to pick on comments or commenters, but another one of those comments that gets repeated a lot is that we should all have plenty of junk silver to barter with. I don't know who it is, but somebody is pushing those two talking points really hard, and they must be pretty convincing because they come up surprisingly often. And it's a fun fantasy. Fun if you don't think about the actual harm that would come to your friends, your family, you for that matter. And fun probably isn't the right word. I'm sure it seems like a pretty serious thing to some people out there who do think about that harm, but it's just not realistic to plan around a flip of the switch, move away from the dollar to bartering with junk silver. Now it feels like I'm off topic here, but the idea is that silver has certain value. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to use it to buy a loaf of bread. I just don't think it's realistic to plan around a flip of the switch, move away from the dollar to bartering with junk silver. Personally, I don't even have any, and I do a fair amount of planning. I see the value of silver being a lot more like gold. It just helps you maintain wealth. The likelihood of using junk silver requires that the existing currency is destroyed, people have it, so people have junk silver, people understand junk silver, and then they all agree that it's valuable. Now, personally, I'd take your American Silver Eagles in trade, but you can keep those Roosevelt dimes. I'm just not interested. So at least one of us is not on board. I'm not making this video to attack anybody's predictions or anybody's plans. I'm just making it to go over a few ways that I do think it makes sense to have gold and silver. And it's not about extremely unlikely events that then lead to extremely unlikely new currencies that some of us happen to have. So we don't need an SHTF world to make silver, definitely not gold, valuable. My take on it's pretty simple. If you're able to build up some gold, you build up a valuable asset. It's a true statement regardless of the wider economy. Back to the whole Bitcoin idea. If Bitcoin is on a run, gold is still valuable. If Bitcoin tanks, the market tanks, other things tank, gold will probably increase in value. So if all that happens and all those other markets crash, the economy goes to hell, you have options with gold. You can sell some, subsidize some of that lost income. You could continue to buy it. Your average cost is going to go up as the price goes up. Or you can just sit it out. Watch the value of the gold you already have go up. So it's not an asset that requires dollar debasement to be valuable. We're not going to be buying that loaf of bread. It's just a stable asset that gives you flexibility. The more of it that you have, the more flexibility you have. So the ideal here is that you're still safe if your other assets, your other investments crash. Maybe you're able to sell some gold so you don't have to sell stocks at the wrong time or Bitcoin at the wrong time and then realize those huge losses. It could give you time for those to recover. If it's a personal issue, maybe it's a loss of income, maybe you lost your job, well, you can make that up by selling some gold down. All of this is like saving cash. The difference, though, is that if there is some kind of wild event, wildly bad event, it might be worth a lot more. The price of gold will probably go up. So keep some cash for that loaf of bread and then set your sights a lot higher for the gold. I won't be buying bread with gold, and I won't be unable to buy other things like Bitcoin because I'm buying gold. Both of those comments, how are you going to buy a loaf of bread with an ounce of gold or just buy Bitcoin instead? Those are small ideas. Some of the people making them, I'm sure, are just trolling. Others haven't really thought it through, but they just don't make sense. My hope on the channel going into the new year is that we can talk about bigger things. It is fun sometimes to drop into the Mad Max conversation now and then, but this is bigger than that. I think that it's a way to level up. So, Happy New Year. Let's do some bigger things in 2022. And drop a comment, hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed. All of that helps the channel, and it also makes each of these videos a lot more interesting. I think the comments are the most interesting part, so let us know what you're up to. Thanks again for all the support this past year. The channel has had some pretty good growth, and I definitely appreciate that. So, if you're still here, thank you again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.